Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of The Zurvivalist. I'm your host, Matt Jarbo, here today with JD from Denver, Colorado. JD, how are you?
I'm good, Matt. How are you?
Doing well. Thank you very much for being on the show. Such short notice. I kind of wrangled you to come on for this week's episode. Uh,
Pleasure to be here.
but now you have your blog. What is your blog?
Oh, it's bloodsuckinggeek.com.
Now tell all of our listeners at home, what is bloodsuckinggeek.com?
It's basically, so far, horror film review specifically, and some discussion and some top 10 lists and whatever I feel like doing at the moment, basically.
Good, good. So I just want to give you a plug for your website
Yeah,
and let
appreciate
people
it.
out there check it out. I've checked it out. I'm actually going to be doing a write up for the site here about some of my experiences on Survivalist. So you guys, I'll link over to that when that goes live. But let's get into it. JD, how would you survive a zombie outbreak?
Uh, well, it's my opinion that since we don't have the water, and I've heard an episode from you guys where I know you're in California, correct?
Yeah, I'm in Los Angeles, so the water here sucks.
Right. But at least you know that, if you get out on the water, then assuming they can't get out to you as too well, but up here we don't have that option, so I figure the mountains to be our best bet. So my plan is to go towards kind of the gateway of the mountains. There's a little town called Morrison up here, which, like I said, gateway, so it's far enough away from the city and the main population that you don't have to worry too much. Um, but
About
it's
people coming, like a lot of people showing up and kind of tearing through, or
exactly, yeah.
okay.
You don't have to worry about just the mass horde.
Well, because that would suck though for a survival situation. Because if the masses come through, they're going to loot everything and take everything,
Very
and
true.
then you're just kind of stuck. I mean, at least you're kind of safe, but you're still stuck without any supplies.
Very true. Yeah. Yeah. And so, I look at that as kind of an opportunity to be on the fringe to where you still have enough to get back that if you find a path to get back, I mean, everyone's going to need to get to a grocery store at some point.
Sure,
Um,
sure. Got to get those
so
canned foods and other non-perishable items.
yeah, everything that you haven't already stocked up, and I know some people are already stocking up, but
Well, what
personally, I'm
about
not.
you? Let's ask, right now, currently in your position, if zombies hit right now, would you be able to survive for a long period of time if you were unable to get to where you're needing to go?
If I was unable to get anywhere, it's my wife and I, and stockpile right now is lacking. So no, we would make it uh, a month on food.
Well, I mean, a month, I see all these things, like all these movies and events about talking about the outbreak and how it would completely destroy the world for ever and ever. And I don't really believe that, given how connected we all are these days.
Yeah,
I think there would be safeguards in place. I think people would be able to go find, like a camp or something, and they'd be able to rally people together quicker than I think other people would lead us to believe. But just in the sake of this argument, you'd be screwed. So we can go from there.
yeah.
Well, let me ask you this: do you have, I mean, you're in Colorado. I know there's a lot of hunting up there, fishing. Are you able to live off the land? Can you, capture and kill and cook your own food?
Personally, no. And I'll admit it right out. But personally, I've never been a hunter. I've fished, but never been a hunter. So as far as that's concerned,
Well, I mean, fishing is
no.
still
I,
able
I
to get
can
you food.
Yeah, and so I can catch and clean a fish. Um, so I guess I could live off fish for quite a while.
Yeah, that's the thing with fish, is they're, they rapidly populate. Well, I don't know. So if you can get near a hatchery or something, maybe you'd be able to keep a supply going for a while. Um,
True.
but okay, so you're not really weapons proficient, but you can at least capture fish and stuff. What about camping? Do you have a lot of camping gear? Uh,
Yes.
so you'd be able to survive off the grid, at least with sleeping, bags and some form of provision.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's one thing that a lot of Coloradans have in common is camping. And I've been out backpacking, and you stay out for a week at a time or 10 days at a time. Um, so as far as that's concerned, absolutely surviving out in the wilderness, as much as that's safe. I don't think there's certain areas because you got to be able to see what's going on, and
Yeah.
it's pretty heavily wooded mostly here.
Now, I don't know how many people are in like the Denver area. I'm assuming a number of millions of people. Uh,
It That's a fair question. I know it's a very large city. We've got, I think, about 5 million people in Colorado, so I'd say, geez, rough guess, 2.5 million are around, Denver metro area.
yeah, the bulk of the population lives.
Exactly.
It's like in Los Angeles, the bulk of the population, is like 14 million people. So I would be screwed.
Oh yeah.
You would probably be a little bit luckier than me. I would be dead in days, but you could probably live. So what about long-term survival? Let's talk about that for a second. Would you, getting into it like, it's maybe like a month or so down the road, if you have enough food and you're stuck there and you're able to get out, like how would you, like let me rephrase this. If you heard like on the radio, like there was a, come to Mile High Stadium, right? Because that's Broncos. Come to Mile High Stadium, and we have safety here. Like we have food and provisions. Would you make that trek? Would you attempt to go into the city because to try to get to where there might be safety or anything like that?
It's it's a good question. And in fact, though, I've been talking with a buddy that's actually down in Texas, and him and his family are, I won't use the term gun nuts, but basically, and we've already planned. Well, I've already told him that we'll hole up in this certain town in Morrison, and we'll wait for him to work his way up because he'll be our supply of weapons. So as far as that's is concerned, if something happened like that, no, I'd stay put and stay faithful to him.
Oh, of course, you want to know. You definitely want to stay with who you know, and because familiarity will work better in a situation like that than the unknown.
Right.
So this is kind of an odd question. I haven't asked this before, but I've been thinking a lot about it. How do you think you'd be able to prepare mentally for the situation? Because that's something that's not often, I mean, I think if you play video games, like the Dead Rising games are the best ones to really kind of like hone in on the psychological aspect of a zombie outbreak. Do you
Yeah.
think that, I mean, do you really honestly think you'd be able to mentally handle it? Like, or would you be able to, like, could your wife handle it? I'm not trying to knock your wife. I'm just honestly asking.
Yeah. And funny you say that. My wife can be more pigheaded than I am. So, um, I'd say both of us could be prepared mentally. It would definitely be a shock, but
Oh yeah, of course. I mean, after like first couple days would be the worst of it, and then what, 21 days to develop a habit. So after a few weeks, we'd get kind of acclimatized to the situation.
yeah.
But what if you were dealing with a crazy, out of control person next to you? Would you kill them if you had to?
Yes, and that's one of the things is I don't want to put up with I don't want to put up with the crazy survivors that can't handle themselves. I wouldn't necessarily just kill them. I would just separate. I wouldn't want to be around a bunch of people that didn't know how to handle themselves emotionally, especially because I think that's probably the most dangerous. Is people that just can't get their head on straight.
Yeah, and I think in today's society, well, I mean, with you being in Colorado, most people being more, wilderness minded due to your general surroundings, you guys are probably would fare better in a situation like this because you would, quicker to react. Whereas in my neck of the woods, it would be, I don't have Twitter, I don't have Twitter, and then like a day later, they're just like they're peeing all over everyone and jumping off buildings. I honestly would expect that would happen.
Yeah.
Um, so,
Yeah.
all right, let's take away from that. If there was no possible way you could seek, further shelter in Denver, like if the military is like, we're gonna drop a nuke in Denver to, clear it out because it's kind of, away from all the other major cities,
Yeah.
and they're gonna test it, and you had to bug out quick. Like, where would you go? What would be the next major place you would get to? That's at least 200 miles away. The only way to be safe.
Wow, that's a good question. And for whatever reason, and to be honest, I can't identify specific movies or specific references or whatever, but I have north stuck in my head as the direction to go in these kind of situations. So I would probably go with instinct and start heading hell up towards Canada. Less population, um, at least more spread out.
Yeah, Canada's got about, I think, 37 million people last time I looked into it. Well, if you going north, I mean, you're about what, 2 hours away from Laramie, Wyoming.
Yeah, yeah,
So I
that's
mean, and
about it.
that's the biggest city uh in Wyoming, and that's the heaviest population. And I think the 15 runs right through there, going up to Canada. So I mean, would you try to make it through Laramie and keep going north on that freeway? Or I don't know your freeway system exactly, but I kind of have a general understanding of the area. Um,
Yeah,
or would you make your way around it? Like, I don't know, would you try check out like Devil's Tower or something? Maybe that's like, I know it's in the farther east of you, but
um, yeah, I'm actually not quite sure where Devil's Tower is, but I would definitely try to avoid Laramie. But that is probably the best route to take, road wise.
yeah, because I know that the 15 runs from San Diego all the way to Canada, so I know that freeway kind of well. Uh, or you could always attempt to head south towards Vegas, right? I mean, warmer climates, but more people, so it's kind of a tough call. Um, so let's see how we're doing on time here. Okay, actually, well, we're kind of actually running out of time. We've gone over the 10 minutes, but that's perfectly fine. So let me just kind of end it with this: what would you do if you were bit, and what would you do if your wife was bit?
um, First question: if I was bit, then I I heard one of your other guys say he wants to go out with style, and I'm kind of the same way. There's a newer French movie called The Horde, um, and the guy gets bit, and he just pulls out all his guns and goes and stands on a car, and as all the zombies are swarming him, takes out every single one that he possibly can before he goes down. That's
Nice.
the way that I'd like to go out. If my wife got bit, then because I have to admit, as far as other family and stuff, I don't expect them to last long because they won't even think about it, much less prepare. Um, but if my wife got bit, that's probably the one family member that would be the mental breaking point for me. So I don't know how well I'd handle that one.
Well, yeah, it's one of those things that's kind of like tough to think about because you're not in the moment, but you know, and I don't want to like push you to make a decision. So that one we can kind of leave open ended, but food for thought for down the road.
Yeah,
Anyway, JD, thank you very much for being here on such short notice. Everyone,
absolutely.
head over to bloodsuckinggeek.com, check out his site. You can find the link for this in the show notes on Zurvivalist.com. My name is Matt Jarbo. You guys can find me at KZOM Radio at Twitter, KZOM Radio on Facebook, or just kzomradio.com. We are all over the web. And stay tuned next week for another great episode of The Zurvivalist. Have a good one. I'll see you guys then.